just get that idea of what's that lifestyle that is actually going to make you happy, and then figure out how much that lifestyle is going to cost, and then work out, okay, that's the annual passive income requirement you need. This is the net wealth position you need to get. If I can get to that net wealth position, that is going to make me happy because I'm going to be able to achieve that lifestyle. So it's the lifestyle that's going to make you happy, but it's the money that's the vehicle that's going to allow you to achieve it.
Hello and welcome to Uncovered, the podcast with your host, Jason Irving. Join me in a journey to understand what's truly happening in your world and the world around you. This is not about how you're living life on the surface. It's about what's truly driving you from under the covers. I'm going to take you on a journey to deeply uncover the reason why you are here, the ultimate purpose in your problems, and the way that they have shaped your life up until now. See, I believe you have a purpose, and your problems are the highway towards ultimate realization of that journey toward freedom and the reconnection of your true self. I've been told I have a different spin on most things, and I'll be giving you my understanding of life, love, and what we're all here for, purpose. To get the best out of this podcast, drop what you already know so you can discover what's beyond you. So join me, let's play this game of life and bring on liberation, transformation, and change. Let's do this. Hey guys, welcome to Uncovered. I'm really excited. I've got Michael Shaw here from Aureus Financial, and Michael is one of the people who looks after clients and makes sure that they're on track with their journey towards bringing wealth into their personal lives. Welcome to Uncovered, Michael.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get to know you. So we're going to start with, who's Michael and what are you about and what do you do?
All right, so who am I? I don't know. I'm just a pretty regular guy that's loves going on the beach, family man, got a baby on the way, super excited about that. I love playing sport. I love to travel. I've been to about 70 countries.
70?
70, yep.
Wow.
And yeah, I don't know. I just, how I got there and how I funded all that is I work in financial services and just teach people how to kind of achieve their lifestyle dreams and how to achieve, what people call financial freedom. So yeah, that's how I make that all happen.
That is amazing. I'm just a little bit floored by 70 countries.
Yeah, so I spent probably 4 years on the road. So I was backpacking for about 3.5, 4 years.
When you were younger?
Yeah, so I was about 24 when I started.
Okay, tell me what your favorite country was.
That's a hard one to answer right now because my favorite country that I ever visited was actually Russia.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
so what was it like over there?
Look, it's one of those countries that the media does get a lot of it wrong. Because I remember the feeling that I got as soon as I landed in Russia. I remember my friend and I, we both looked at each other and we were like thinking, shit, we're in Russia. This is crazy. What are we doing? And then within 12 hours, I think we were just walking around the city, just meeting people. And what we learned really quickly was that Russians were actually extremely hospitable people. They've just got this kind of barrier when you first meet them. But once you meet with them and talk to them and get past that first barrier, they're just like you and I. They're just normal people just living their country, living their life. And, they're proud of their country. It's a beautiful country. The architecture is absolutely amazing. It's probably the most beautiful architecture I've ever seen in my life. St. Petersburg was just amazing. I spent hours getting lost in the streets. It was a very cool place. And yeah, I ended up spending a month in Russia, just traveling all around to Petrozavodsk, and saw all these crazy things that just didn't even make sense to me. There was this church that had been sitting there for, I think, over 1,000 years or something like that. And they haven't used any nails, anything to actually hold this thing together. It's basically been put together with like a jigsaw.
Wow.
piece. It's crazy. Like, it's enormous, and it's been there for like 1,000 years and not one nail or anything has been holding it together. So it was just so many moments like that. It was just very, very cool place.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, I'd like to have a little bit of a touch on this when we look at a person who is well traveled. So as a person that is well traveled, I'm nowhere near many countries as you. When you go to different countries, it changes your perception around humanity, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It gives you a sense of wanting to find out how, who, and what, and how people operate. Would you agree?
100%. I think one of the biggest things I got out of traveling was that there's two types of people in every single country. There's the everyday people like you and I, and then there's the government. And a lot of people feel that certain countries are against each other, but when you get down to the civilian level, there's not a lot of hatred between each other. You can have a conversation and get to know each other, but the governments are the ones that are actually having the issues with each other. So that's one of the biggest things I learned, is that I'd go to places that supposedly didn't like Australians or didn't like Western people or anything like that. And it wasn't like that at all. I was completely safe. Everyone was so happy to see me. And it was just, really humbling, nice experience.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had that experience when I went to Sri Lanka. I went there when there was a civil war.
Yeah.
And we were told not to go there. And I was going there for a wedding, and we were encouraged to go there. Oh, come on, let's just go. And all I thought was, this is going to be awesome. There's going to be no tourists. We're going to be able to go everywhere. And we did. We got to go everywhere. There were checkpoints with machine guns. And every time they saw us, they were like, hello. A little Sri Lankan head bobble, and they let us pass. And this is the most beautiful humans. And what I saw over there was really, really interesting for what you do and what I saw over there psychologically. And I was there with my brother-in-law, and he was the one getting married. And what I saw was a whole bunch of happy people with a lot less.
Yeah.
Right. And so they had so many smiles on their faces. And I remember Craig, his name is the brother-in-law. And I said, why did you? He said, I would love to live over here.
Mm.
And I asked him, I was really intrigued, because he's he's really successful operator in his own business. He runs a tiling business in Canberra.
Yeah.
And I said, why? And he said, you'd always be open with these. I wouldn't need to prove myself over here.
Mm.
Right. And so when we're thinking about this and we're looking at psychology, going over to different cultures, and I've been to third world countries, quite a few situations where I've gone to third world countries, and you sort of see a different attitude. There's a survival based attitude a lot of the time. And there's also a happiness that I've seen a lot more than the people who have to, in quotes, prove themselves in the world. And we're talking about finance here. And so what is it about finance that you've noticed with your clients and that sort of thing around the psychology of like people having to prove themselves through money and wealth? What do you notice when you're working with the clients around this, and how they struggle, I guess, with getting over the line with turning their profits into wealth?
I think the biggest thing is just getting people to understand how to actually create wealth, and what financial freedom even actually means for them. Because I think there's it's a bit of a misconception out there that financial freedom is just more of a feeling, but it is something that you can absolutely calculate with your own circumstances or your own family's values or whatever else. Like one family could get to financial freedom a lot quicker than another if they do have like a modest lifestyle that they do want to live. So sometimes just getting clarity on exactly what it is that you want to achieve, and then teaching them the steps on how they can actually get there, can change their mindset on what they're trying to achieve. But you are totally right. I think when you are living in a country where we don't have to worry as much about the survival aspects, we do have that mindset where we are trying to go like chase more. And I think it's not for everyone though. Like if I look at my wife and I, my wife and we're very different. I'm always trying to chase things and achieve more, and Sarah's a lot more chilled out and just wants to have the relaxed family life, and it's fine. It keeps us both in check. But yeah, I think it also just comes down to the person. It's not so much always about the culture.
Yeah, and I think that's right. One thing I've had struggle with in my life is finance. right? And not knowing really what to do with money. And I'm so lucky and fortunate that I saw this guy with a crazy beard doing a whole bunch of Facebook stories, and I was stalking him for about 6 months. And I was like, I don't know whether I could trust anyone. I've been let down so many times. So I was just like, no, I'm not so sure. So I just stalked him for 6 months, and then, had a chat, and I realized he's a pretty good guy. And not a good guy, he's an awesome human. And I was just like, oh, and then I found all of you guys and what you do, and the attitudes that you have around money was so different to mine. I've always been scared of it and not really known what financial freedom was about until I'm still learning, Michael. And you do this roadmap when we start Aureus.
Yeah.
And it's so mind-blowing, your roadmap, because it's just like, what do you want?
Yeah.
And I'd sit there and go, oh, this is how it works, because no one thinks.
I know.
And you would have experienced this with a lot of the clients, like sort of a little bit of a Homer Simpson bubble and a little bit of a, oh, what do I want? I just do my job.
Yeah. I have these conversations every day, probably about five different business owners. And, I start off with where they're at right now with their business or personal wealth. And then I go, okay, so what are your goals? What is it that you're really trying to achieve here? And it's so many of them don't know how to answer that question. A lot of them go too deep into strategy, start saying things like, oh, I want 5 properties. I want, $10 million in the bank or in the super or whatever else. And I'm just like, hey, whoa, let's go back a step. Forget about that. That's just how we're going to get you to achieve your lifestyle goals. What are your lifestyle goals or retirement goals that you really want to achieve? When do you want to retire? When do you want to stop working? When do you want to start going on, traveling when you want to do it? When you want to do things that you want to do rather than having to work to achieve it. And if you were at financial freedom, you didn't need to work, what would you be doing with your time? And so many people just can't answer that question.
Yeah.
So, but that's the very first step when it comes to financial planning, is figure out exactly what lifestyle you even want to achieve, and then we can reverse engineer the numbers to teach you how to do that.
Yeah. And that this is mind-blowing, has been mind-blowing for me, because I've been always a little bit scared of money, right? And I've never really thought, I've always, Sam put a post video around this and said, you got to be, I love money. I was just like, man, I'm still struggling with loving that stuff. And so this is why I love spending time with you guys, because I know you guys actually have a love for it and you have a different attitude to it.
Yep.
And I think there's a matching thing here that I heard from your voice here, from your language, was that there's this thing of wanting to feel safe, right? But then there's a major difference between feel safe and financial safe.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, as in like a financial freedom kind of position. Yeah. Just going on what Sam was saying, because that whole old school mindset of like money can't buy you happiness. Ever since I started working with Aureus and understanding, the roadmap, and also how you can calculate your financial freedom dollar figure and all that stuff, I've realized that you absolutely 100% can buy happiness.
Okay.
And it's the changing the mindset that the money itself is not going to make you happy. You could have $10 million in the bank and it's not going to make you happy.
Yes.
But if you get crystal clear on the lifestyle or the situation that would actually make you happy, and then you put the dollar figures next to all those items to see, okay, you want to be living in a certain house in an area which is good for your family. You want to be able to spend X amount of time with your kids, and you want to be able to afford to go out, do these activities with your kids, go on holidays together, camping, and maybe an overseas trip or whatever. Just get that idea of what's that lifestyle that is actually going to make you happy, and then figure out how much that lifestyle is going to cost, and then work out, okay, that's the annual passive income requirement you need. This is the net wealth position you need to get. If I can get to that net wealth position, that is going to make me happy, because I'm going to be able to achieve that lifestyle. So it's the lifestyle that's going to make you happy, but it's the money that's the vehicle that's going to allow you to achieve it.
Yeah. So, this is so essential, guys, because what Michael's talking about here is how people don't think, right? Yeah. So most people they have this dream of a lifestyle. And look, I know this. we're not educated. We're not educated, and we're not taught, well, how do you achieve that lifestyle? And when I got to meet Sal, and he took me through the process of the roadmap, I was the same. I was just like, oh, so if I want some things, I have to put some fun. Yeah, it's so obvious.
Yeah.
And it makes me sound, when I'm saying it out loud, and probably listeners, it probably sounds really stupid to you. Oh, I want this lifestyle, so I need the money to just create the lifestyle. It's so freaking stupid when I say it out loud. Like, what was I thinking? But sometimes you need someone just to point out the simple things that you're not seeing, because what we do quite often in business is we're thinking short-sighted about and putting out fires. And so years can go by putting out fires and short-sightedness. And then all of a sudden you're 50, like I am right now.
Yep.
And you go, well, shit, I haven't created this thing called a future. And there's a clicking point, listeners. At 50, you sort of go, well, you're in that sort of place where you got however many years you've got to go. And if you haven't got a plan of how you want to retire, you're going to end up relying on the government to supply you something, and you're going to end up not having that lifestyle in your future.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate that it's about 60% of Australians actually get that realization in their 60s, is that they don't have enough money to live a lifestyle that they want to live, or know that they're going to run out of money at some point.
Yeah.
So it's it's really sad, but it's also sad with the way the industry's kind of gone with compliance and everything else, that the cost to serve people financial advice has actually gone up. So it's making it harder for everyday people to actually afford to get advice as well, which is making it even worse. So I think it used to be about 27% of Australians were getting financial advice, and now I think it's gone down to about 15%.
What? And so just because of the cost?
Yeah, like I think, you go back 10 years, and to get financial advice, you could get it for about, $1,500. But to get, personal wealth advice these days, you wouldn't even make profit if you weren't charging at least $6,000. So, for someone to just pay $6,000 to get someone to tell them what to do with their money, a lot of people can't wrap their head around that. That's a good investment. When they're struggling with money, they don't want to give up $6,000, for example. So
yeah, and I think this is really important, listeners, is that there is a saying, you've got to spend money to make money. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's absolutely true, as long as you give it to the right people.
Yeah, and I've made that mistake. I remember first year when I was running the academy, I saw this guy, I won't mention his name, and he was making all these promises, and I only said, oh, you should do it. And impulsive me, I was not going to make any decisions. I just wanted to see these guys on stage, and I only said, you should do it. And I spent $25K and got pretty much nothing.
Yep.
And this can happen with people. There's a lot of sharks out there without the backing. It's like people promising you that, come and I just had an experience with a guy yesterday. He's lucky he was in our academy, because he's had absolute disaster zones happen. He just lost $30,000 by giving it to someone, and it's gone. Completely gone. An investment opportunity gone.
It's happened a lot through COVID as well, because more people have had to pivot their business to something else to be able to still make money. Yeah. And there's because of that, and because a lot more people are at home just on their screens, they're getting sucked into the noise of the internet. And so many people have become, wealth experts in the last 2 years. And really all they are is really good marketers. Yes. They've just figured out a way to get their message in front of you and tell you that they're going to teach you the ways to, invest in, NFTs or crypto or something like that. And your money's going to shoot to the moon, and you're going to get, financial freedom in 12 months or whatever else. And in so many cases, people are losing a lot of money. And it's, I think it's just a matter of do your research on the person that you're going to be getting the advice from. Make sure that they are genuinely legit. Make sure that they situation is working for them properly. Like it's not just one investment that shot to the moon and they think they're now a wealth expert. Make sure that they have been around for a while. They've got good reputation, good testimonials, and just make sure you go with the right people. That's all.
Yeah, and I think this is really important, listeners, that you got to. I made an impulsive decision, and this guy is apparently really good with stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently, right? And then I found out later he was getting sued by a lot of people with his promises. He's actually a very, very wealthy man.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes you just don't meet the right people. So for me, my idea of the right person is a good person, right, as well. So this particular guy that I'm talking about was really, really arrogant, and he put people in their place, and he actually made people feel, he did the classic, I'll make you shrink, and then I'll give you a little bit of a breadcrumb, and I'll save you because I've just made you feel like the stupidest human being in the world and criticize the crap out of you. And then I'm the expert, so I'll make it better.
Yeah.
And that sort of marketing is awful.
It is, yeah.
And I've had people market to me a lot recently around that style. And you guys don't do that. Like, you don't have that style of marketing. So, and I think that just comes down to the type of people that you want to learn from too. I don't want to learn from Superman turning me into kryptonite and then saying, I'm going to actually smash that kryptonite and save you. What do you do? What do you guys do? Like, the way that you approach people and help them is basically through, you're all very good at what you do. It's full of kindness and care.
Yeah,
that's what I've noticed anyway.
And it's a tailored tailored advice based on the person's goals and things they want to achieve. So that roadmap that you mentioned earlier is the first step. Just get a clear understanding of your lifestyle and financial goals over the next 20 years. And then when do you want to achieve these goals? So 12 months, 5 years, 10 years, etc. And then let's start working on a plan on, okay, you want to buy your own home in the next 12 months. We need to work on a plan for that for the next 12 months. So this is how we're going to do that. And then the next goal is, okay, we're going to have kids. Okay, so your wife's probably going to stop working. A few other things are going to change. Okay, we need to adjust the budgeting and everything for those next 5 years. It's just like that. It's just basically chopping and changing through the goals and making sure the end goal of you getting to your financial freedom by the right time frame is achieved. So.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Now, I want to go to something that's going to be happening with you very, very soon, Michael.
Yeah.
You're going to be a dad. Now, I'm a father of 3, so I know what you're going to be up for. Welcome to some sleepless nights. And,
I think they've already started. My wife and I, we stupidly bought 2 puppies at the same time. At 2 a.m, they're like, "Oh, it's playtime," and so
Oh, that's good. Good start. Good start for it all. So, what does it feel like? Like, I know as a dad, I always think of my kids and think, well, I've got to make sure that I provide for them really, really well. Did it change you at all once you became, once your partner became pregnant? Like, did you change at all in your thinking, or was it just the same?
I've kind of been thinking about this for probably about 6 years now. Not that kids are going to happen, in the next 9 months. That was obviously a bit of a shift. But, when I bought the house that we're living in right now in 2016, so that was about 6 years ago, I bought this house with the intention of one day moving from Sydney to Queensland and living in this with my wife and dogs and kids and stuff like that. Yeah. So that was on my mind. It wasn't just an investment choice. I was actually thinking, this will be good. It's got a backyard for the dogs to run around. It's got an area for the, barbecues and entertaining, all that kind of stuff. So those thoughts were actually going in when I bought this house. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of setting myself up while still living my single life and enjoying life. I was still thinking that was going to happen in the next few years. And so, it wasn't that much of a shock or a life change or whatever when she actually fell pregnant. But it's just it's coming around quick. Sorry, I just got a croaky voice.
Yeah, no worries. So that's a really good thing. And now I want to talk about this about you. Like, you've got a really really positive attitude. around things. And we had a bit of a chat. You just wanted some advice from me a while ago in a messenger message. Can I just have a chat with you? I was just like, okay, this is a bit left field. Sure.
Yeah.
And so we had a little bit of a chat, and you were doing this personal development thing, and I do personal development, and this is what you heard. You heard like all you heard was everything's terrible, life's hard, everything sucks, and we can help you.
Yeah.
And you were sitting in this on the Saturday, and it was I think it was Sunday morning or Saturday night. You reached out to me and said, "Can I have a chat to you?" And I was like, "Sure." And then we conversed back and forward, and I learned something from you that day, and it makes sense. Is that a lot of people choose personal development because they're a bit broken. And I used to be a healer, so people would come to me, and I used to be the guy that would fix anything that the medical model couldn't fix.
Yeah,
I was the magic pill, and so people would come and learn from me from a place where something had shattered.
Yeah.
And you said, Michael, that there's no place for you.
Yeah.
Personal development. So can you give us a bit of feedback about how you experienced that first day, and then the conversation that we had around it?
Yeah, well, it was a 3-day event. So it was like 14-hour days or something ridiculous for each day for 3 days in a row. So I think it started at like 8:30 in the morning. It finished like 10 p.m. It was very, very long days. And like, I'll go back like before, like the reason why I joined it, because I was talking to my friend of mine who, had these amazing breakthroughs going through this personal development course. He became a professional football player and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, wow, so he was a little bit lost before he did it. And then he just had his mindset completely tunnel vision on his goals, exactly what he wanted to achieve. And he got this all through the personal development course. So I was just thinking, look, I know I'm not broken or anything like that, but I've got to a point in my life where I've achieved a lot of the things that I wanted to achieve. I've got myself to a pretty comfortable position. I'm very comfortable with everything that I achieved in my 20s. I've done the education stuff that I wanted to do. I've, a lot of the work stuff I've done. My wealth situation is pretty comfortable. All this kind of stuff is all sorted. So I'm kind of wondering, what's my next goal? What do I want to achieve next?
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm thinking. Well, if I can just understand that over a 3-day personal development thing, that'd be an amazing outcome. So I started doing the program, and that I said in the first day, look, this is why I'm here. I've got myself to a pretty comfortable position. I just don't know what my next goal is. What do I chase for next? And the whole day was basically trying to break you down to get to a point where you just feel like you're the reason why so many things aren't going right for you in your life.
Yeah.
They kept saying things like, "This is how you think," and I'm like, "No, it's not. Like, I don't think like that at all. I don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah.
And they wouldn't ever give you answers. They just kept pushing things into your head to get you to overthink things. And you're at home on Zoom and you're questioning things, and they're not giving you answers. And I just feel like the 14-hour days, the idea of that was to just kind of make you tired, make you very vulnerable. They got you to do things like figure out someone who, is, you had a lot of personal issues with, like if you had issues with your parents or something like that, and call them and talk about that issue and get you just like even more and more vulnerable. It was, I didn't like it after the first day, but I thought I'll stick it out. I went to the second day again. And after the second day, I was just over it. I was completely over it. At about 10 p.m. that night, that's when they came up with their winning solution, or their winning, whatever it was. And I just thought it was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard. And I couldn't do another 14 days of listening to these people. So that's the next morning. I took my dogs for a walk, and I was like, do I want to do this last day? I was thinking about it in my head. And I'm like, you know what, I'll have a chat to Jason before I start. So I messaged you. It was a Sunday morning. I messaged you at about 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, hey, do you have a second to have a chat? And then, yeah, we had a chat about it, and then that's why I decided, no, this isn't for me, and I pulled out.
Yeah. And what did you hear from me? What feedback did you get? Because I was pretty blunt.
I can't specifically remember exactly what you said, because I was kind of annoyed at the fact that I'd wasted like 48 hours of my life. So I was pretty annoyed about the fact that I did it in the first place. I can't remember exactly what you said, but it was basically explaining the way that some of these programs do work with the whole breaking you down and getting you to feel really vulnerable. And the idea is that you buy into the next program, which is exactly what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
And just get you hooked into their way of being. And it was just making them feel like they're the god that you're going to need to, follow to, follow your dreams or anything else. And it was starting to make a whole lot of sense. And I think a lot of those people that were actually in that program were going to get totally hooked into it.
Yeah.
So,
look, it's been really interesting. There's this particular environment. There's been a couple of people that have gotten hooked into some of these particular environments. And I've worked with a few of them who were high up there. Somehow they said, you've got to go and see this guy. And, and they're pretty busted. And, but the thing that I saw in them was something really essential in personal development, that a lot of the people who are doing help are actually really broken.
Yeah.
And they're actually saying, come and align with your brokenness, and then we'll be all broken together, and then we'll save it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work for the person like yourself who's doing okay, right? And so this is the problem with personal development listeners, and actually therapists as well. I had a therapist. I used to be the therapist in Canberra. So all the therapists would come to see me when they broke down. And they'd tell me all the problems and the things that were going on. And, they had a pretty similar issue. They weren't working on their shit, basically. Yeah. And a lot of people who go into personal development aren't in good shape. That's why they choose it.
Yeah.
Right. And I had to tell one lady to stop sending me people, because every time I try to break them open, they go and see her, and then she put them back into the position of broken, so then she could keep her business running.
Yeah.
And my whole process was to try and get people to leave me.
Yeah.
Right. So they could support them to do self-support.
Yeah.
And I think this is really systemic in the personal development. And this is what Aureus, like, in my opinion, Aureus and the Wellness Breakthrough Academy has the same ethics.
Yeah.
Our jobs, we want people to stay for life.
Yeah.
Because we've got a lot to teach.
Yeah.
But we don't want people to stay broken. We want people to be better. And actually the same attitude exists. Like, I'm in Aureus. I look at it myself as a life member for this reason. My weakness is money. I want to go to the strength and learn the money muscle. So I go and pick people who I like for a start, and then I know have the magic, because I've been burnt many times, and just do what I'm told. Right. And I had, some broken psychology around how I think around money. So each time I talk to you guys, it actually changes it up a little bit, just because I'm hearing stuff. So that's where my weakness is, right? Yeah. We all have weaknesses. But the thing is, we don't have to be completely busted to actually get help. And I think people lose sight of this, right? We have, like, even your attitude, you have a forward-thinking attitude, Michael. Like, you were single, you didn't even know your partner. And you were thinking about what you were going to do, how you were going to live. You managed to sort yourself out, live on a hill in Queensland, so you don't end up underwater. So I saw you digging trenches on a Facebook post to make sure your house was okay. So at least you're up a little bit higher than some people. But it's that forward thinking and the attitude that gives people an opportunity to have a natural positivity to them based on action and growth. And then you want to succeed through achievement.
Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of people achievement-based psychology people don't work with personal development people unless the personal development person is actually focusing on what the client is asking for.
Yeah.
And you didn't get hurt, did you?
In the personal development?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. The only thing I was annoyed about is that I paid money and lost 2 days of my life.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, no, I didn't get it. Until we just spoke about it, I completely forgotten about it.
Yeah, it's really, really important, because this is the cool thing about you, Michael, is that, and this is the attitude, listeners, that you've got to have, is that people hook their problems to their past and get stuck on it, right? And so when you hook your problems to your past, that's when you're making excuses for your future, and you actually write your life story from your past into your future. And even just the way that you just said, oh yeah, I can't remember that because it's in my past, you're not creating hooks.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of people make excuses based on the hooks, and have to learn to break those excuses down. And this is why quite often, I have to push the levers and say, enough's enough. Come on, let's get moving.
Yeah.
We know your history, but let's get moving and do something else and create a blank book and a blank ledger. And I think what you do and what Aureus does is actually personal development in a very, very different way. You're developing and educating people in a wealth way to have a different attitude to it. Would you agree?
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah.
And then when you get someone having a meltdown, there was someone who had a meltdown just on the page a couple of days ago.
Yep.
How do you handle it when someone comes to see you and they're in tears and they're worried about their business, and you can see that they're not in good shape, and you're there with no personal development experience, but you have to be there. You have to actually help them with their emotions, their thoughts, their feelings, and all of those sorts of things that I do, because they're having an absolute meltdown in front of you. How do you handle that?
Yeah, look, sometimes with the work that we do, it's just about bringing the unconscious situation to their conscious, feeling. Like the situation that you're referring to, the situation hadn't actually changed. It was the same situation that had been happening to this client for years and years before she signed up with us. But in the first month of working with us, it's just the reality check of, this is the situation that's going on in your business. This is what the numbers are saying. This is what you need to work on. And it was just that reality check of, I really need help to fix this. So when it was a bit of meltdown, it was just a matter of us encouraging her and giving her support that we are actually 100% here to help you achieve this. And one of the thing I loved about that post was, yes, there was a few Aureus people that jumped on and explained what we're going to be able to do to help her, but then other clients actually jumped on as well and said, look, I was in the exact same situation as you 3 months ago, but now I'm not completely out of it yet, but I see the light. I can see the plan on how I'm going to get myself out of this. So that was a really moving post. Like, I really love that clients actually jumped on and supported us as well with that. So we're going to get some good results for that client, and you can see through the writing that we're going to be changing her life as well, not just her business. Because when someone is so stressed about how they're going to be able to afford their staff and their rent and everything else, to get to a point where they don't need to think about that anymore, it's like, okay, maybe I'll go to the park with my kids instead of thinking about my business. You know what I mean? It's just now actually going to live a life rather than live a lifestyle business that we actually want you to achieve.
Yeah, and I think this is really important, listeners, is that what I've gotten from Aureus is this sense of safety and security around my weakness, and we always need to learn how to reach out for support for our weaknesses to turn them into a strength. And I think what your business does, in my opinion, is for businesses is probably one of the most essential ingredients, which is, there's Jackson says this, and it's the truth, is that we have three main pillars that the most money is spent on, right? relationship. So you want to have that good relationship with your partner. You have that.
Yep.
You want to have wealth, money. You want to know how to use it. So money is such a big trigger for everyone psychologically.
Yep.
And the other one's health, right? And so it's one of the three major pillars. And if we don't get, and if they're not working well together in unison, then we end up getting screwed. So a lot of people I've seen who sacrifice their health for their wealth, and not looking after their bodies, not looking after themselves, and they end up crushing their life based on not thinking and planning about their health over the next 5 years, not planning about how they do their relationship over the next 5 years. And for you guys actually having these plans for the next 5 years. And I love the fact that you guys have a 20-year plan, because no one thinks 20 years down the track. Right? No one does. And so when a company comes in and says, what's a 20-year plan? The first thing that people do is shit themselves. And then it starts a personal development roadmap. And you guys are here to actually personally develop people to become comfortable with wealth, comfortable with money, and have a different attitude.
And that 20-year goals works for anyone. Like, I sometimes when I speak to people in their 50s or whatever, they say to me, "Oh, I don't need to think 20 years into the future because I'm going to retire in 10 years." It's like you've still got lifestyle goals you want to achieve, right? Like, once you finish work, you might want to go travel and all this kind of other stuff. So you still want to have a plan that you can still achieve these lifestyle goals. Might not be, career goals or anything like that, but surely you want to, start enjoying life. And what does that actually look like? So and then it's just about making a plan to make sure you can achieve those after you finish work.
100%. And now there's a word that I've heard a lot from your mouth today, and I want to talk about this with you, about you and your partner, as well as you yourself. I spoke to this. We did an astrology reading together about what you have in your bucket. You have a really high level of financial achievement in your astrology. Right? That you have this amazing sense of achievement and ambition. So it'd be natural to go, well, what's next for you? So how do you balance that with your partner who's more relaxed and that sort of thing, when you've got this thing inside of you that wants to create a mountain? So I see you, and I said this to you, you're like a legacy creator. You've got this thing inside of you, and you've got a great company that you work with that is a legacy creator in its nature. So what is it like having this ambition-driven you, and then having your partner who sort of settles you into, come on, let's relax and enjoy? How do you balance those two equations?
I think I'm just lucky that Sarah's also one of my biggest, what's the word? I don't know, supporters, I guess.
Advocates,
advocates, that's the word. She's been one of my biggest advocates. Like, she knows that I'm driven. She knows that I love to achieve things. And so whilst she might not have the same value for herself, or like her goals for the next 12 months would be very different than my goals for the next 12 months. She still has goals, but it's just a bit different. She's just fully supportive of what I'm trying to achieve. So I know 100% that whilst family is absolutely important to me as well, and my next 12 months goals will be very different to my last 12 months goals because of the baby. I know absolutely that family is also sorted. So I know I've got the time for family. I know I've got time to sort my goals out, and I know I've got the support from the family to be able to achieve that. So I think that's how it's worked so far. We'll see how it goes once the baby comes. Maybe the baby will change a few things, but I also still feel that with the support of Sarah, I'm still going to be able to go off and achieve some of these things.
Yeah, it's interesting with Sarah too, because she's got, I had a look at her chart. I just asked her for her birth time just because I knew she was Aureus, and she has wealth activated, but it actually activates the place where family and love sits. Right? So success actually sits in family and love as well. So it's really nice when you can actually get all of those things working well and getting the support that you need. So, having an advocate, and a lot of people don't have this, guys, is that, you sometimes you can have a partner that's so divergent and, I've forgotten her name. Sarah, sorry. Just went, boop. So, Sarah's different in the way that she approaches. There's a real love and acceptance of the differences, and I think this is what is really important to bring up children. Is that if you're both the same, there's not the diversity, and I think it's great to have someone who has a focus on one end and a focus on another. So then the child gets to decide what focus they want as well, as long as there's love and support and commitment in that journey. Yeah. And I think what I'm hearing from you, Michael, you tell me if I'm wrong, you want to have it all.
I don't know. Like, I want to have my version of all.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Your version.
So I know what I want and I know what I'm going for. But if I achieved that at 40, I would sail off into the sunset and I'd be happy. I could stop there. I don't want, billions of dollars of wealth or anything like that. I'm not interested in that. But I know the lifestyle that I want, and I know exactly how I'm going to achieve that. And once I get that, we'll see. I might want to keep going. Who knows?
Michael, you'll keep going. You've got the nature in you. Yeah. Right? So high achievers have to keep achieving. It'll just be different if you get it earlier. Yeah. I think that's how we work. And I think when you have a partner that can make sure that there's a really good balance between all the equations, because you could potentially get lost if you didn't have Sarah, right? In that journey. A lot of men can do this. They go, okay, I'm going to really focus on my wealth and where I want to go, because it's an identity for your self-esteem sometimes for people. If you have it well rounded, then you get to have your cake and eat it too. And I think this is really, really important. Look, the thing that I love about you, Michael, is there's nothing in you that says, from what I'm hearing, that says you can't have what you're looking for. You've just got to have a really important word that starts with P, plan.
Yeah.
And absolutely. I think a lot of people don't plan their life out at all, and then you end up having a lot of troubles if you don't have any plans. And I didn't really, I was running my business and I was just going, okay, everything's going okay, let's go on this holiday. May would come and I'd be like, okay, I better get my tax for last financial year done. Didn't know how much tax I had to pay, right? So it was always a guess.
Yeah.
And I was always stressed, right? And this is what a plan creates, is that sense of financial freedom, and the feeling of it and the journey of it has to be coming from, a level of commitment and dedication and focus, and not thinking I can't do it, focusing on the I can.
Yeah, it's totally right. So many people just don't have a plan for, firstly, what they're trying to achieve, like what we're touching on before. Just don't even understand what they want to achieve. So how can they actually plan to achieve it? So just getting that clarity of what it is you want to achieve, then start working out the plan of how you're going to achieve it next, and stop getting sucked into the strategy. Like, you don't need to just come up with numbers like I need millions of dollars in the bank or whatever else, because once you actually get the plan and work out how much you will need to achieve that, you might realize you don't need multi-millions of dollars to actually achieve that. That was one of the things I've worked out with one of our clients, because he wanted to have, like, I think it was like $5 million in the bank. And then once we worked out what his lifestyle goals were and worked out what net wealth position he needed, he only needed about 1.5 million to achieve that lifestyle.
Yeah,
and
wow.
So that gives him a clarity. He was like, oh, okay, I could pretty much transition to that lifestyle now, rather than continue to work for another 20 years and, long hours and everything else to get to that position that he didn't even need to get to in the first place.
So I've got a question for you, and this is a personal question. Okay. What would you do with someone like me, and what would you say with someone like me who wants to work until he dies. Like, because I love what I do.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. Would you discourage that? Like
No.
that's my attitude. Like,
No.
I think this is really important, is that everyone's different, right?
Yeah.
And I want to work. I'll be happy if I have my heart attack and I'm helping someone, right?
Yeah.
I have a really balanced lifestyle. I have my kids and my friends, and I love travel and going on holidays and all of those sorts of things that I just wouldn't. I love what I do so much. So how do you work with people like me?
I mean, I don't think it's too much different to what we want to do as well. I think I've got a time frame of when I'll be doing like normal work. But with my goals, once I get to that kind of wealth position, I'm still going to be working. It's just might be something completely different. Might be just a purely passion project, or maybe focus more on my sport, so I can actually try and make something of that. Maybe make something of my golf. I don't know. But that's kind of like what my next stage would be. But for someone like yourself who loves what they do, absolutely gets driven by it, I say go for as long as you can.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a sad reality that a lot of the people, they work in a position they don't like for so long. They get to this retirement where they're going to sail from the sunset and love life, and then that's when things start going wrong for them. Once they don't have anything to wake up for and don't have anything driving them, that's when they kind of just start deteriorating a little bit.
Yeah.
So
that's for me. I'm scared of retirement. I don't like that word.
Yeah.
It's not about the financial freedom stuff. I think for me, I just love what I do, and I want to keep growing, and that's essential. And if I can keep growing and growing my clients, I can't see myself stopping. And my mum's the same.
Yep.
So it's just that sort of thing. When you love what you do, I can't see retirement, the word. And I see people in retirement in quotes, and I'm like, wow, I see a lot of them regressive based change. They go backwards in how they think, and it doesn't look good. It doesn't look like a good look for me.
No, it doesn't. And I mean, there's also the sad realities of some people, working. It's good that you work in a role that you genuinely love, because there's so many people out there that don't. There's so many. You said you were 50, is that right?
Yeah, I'm old.
There's so many 50-year-olds. No, but there's so many 50-year-olds out there that are working in a role that they absolutely despise. They hate going to work, and they're just thinking, as soon as I hit 65, that's when I'm going to stop. But when you've flogged a dead horse for 40 years or whatever else, and you get to that stage and then you finally stop, you're just gonna, this is where things can start going wrong. So I think the fact that you wake up and you're driven by what you do and you love what you do, you could do that forever.
Yeah, and I think that same goes with you, and that's what I see with the passion with people like yourself. You've got this drive, and when you're hitting your sweet spot, imagine what it would be like if you were doing a job that you didn't like, though, and you were sitting there just going, that level of drive that you have.
I was doing a role before I got into working with Aureus, where it's not that I didn't like it, but I wasn't passionate about it at all. So yeah, I kind of fell into that industry and just was working. I mean, the fact that I was traveling around so much, and it was just, the job worked for me. I could go, I could come back, I could get a job straight away, I'd earn good money. I didn't hate it. I never went home hating my job, but it's just I'd wake up in the morning, I'd just be like, yeah, I got to go to work. It was nothing. There was no passion there. And I finally decided I wanted out. I've been in that kind of situation for about 15 years, and I just wanted something new. And that's when I found Aureus. I already knew Jackson, for many, many years. When I found Aureus and started getting into this role, it was just like breath of fresh air. It's the situation that I exactly want. Working from home, got a lot of flexibility, can have a lot of work-life balance, speak to people about things that I genuinely want to talk about. I love talking to business owners. I love helping them achieve, wealth creation and, financial freedom and achieve their lifestyle goals and everything else. I love that. I love having those conversations with people about what they want to achieve. And their goals excite me with my goals. And sometimes I've spoken to clients that told me about a cool goal, and I'm like, oh, I want to do that myself actually. So yeah, I love having those conversations, and just it's just a better life. So.
Yeah, and I think this is really important. Like, there's a lot of people that I've met who have like a pretend positive attitude.
Yeah.
You have one. You have a real one.
Yeah.
Right? And it's really nice and it's really refreshing to actually meet someone who has that really positive, strong-willed attitude to actually getting the life that they want. And what you do, you can see the joy in your eyes around someone else's win being yours, and getting fully excited and seeing, learning from your clients and going, oh, geez, I'd like that.
Yeah.
And putting yourself in a position of not beyond people, with people in the journey of creating wealth and happiness. So, Michael, I really want to thank you for jumping on this podcast with me.
Nice.
Hopefully, listeners, you've got something out of this. What's one piece of advice that you could give around the way that you think, for the listeners to think about when it comes to taking a step to the journey towards creating financial freedom and wealth?
I think one tip would be figure out exactly what you want to achieve. Think about the lifestyle that would actually make you happy, make you and your family happy. Put it all down on paper. Like if you've got a place you want to live, or activities you want to be doing, or certain time with your kids, or whatever else, just put it down on paper, exactly the lifestyle you want to achieve. Figure out how much that lifestyle is going to cost, and then we can start working out a plan on how you can get to that position. But the first step that so many people miss is figure out exactly what lifestyle you want to achieve first, and then we'll start working out the plan second.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. And thank you so much, Michael, for jumping on with me. You also have a podcast, so I'll put that in the show notes for people as well to jump on. It's really nice to actually get. I learn a lot when I get to hear the Aureus voice and what you all do. You're all really unique in the way that you approach and where your backgrounds are, and it's been a great, insightful conversation from you. I've learned a lot, and hopefully the listeners gain some inspiration about achievement, because this is where your magic sits. Thanks so much for being with us today. So if you want to, if you really like this podcast and you think someone could really benefit from it, like and share it, review it. It's really good to have this. And Michael works with this amazing company, Aureus. I get the support from them as well. So we'll put you all the details in the show notes. And thank you so much for jumping on, bud.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate you, and we really appreciate your time, because time is so valuable. What we'd love you guys to do, if you like this podcast, if you could share it with your friends, and also our website address for the podcast is www.wellnessbreakthroughacademypodcast.com. Our website is www.wellnessbreakthroughacademy.com. We have a free Facebook group called Wellness Leadership Evolution, so search for that. I'd love it if you could add me as a friend on Facebook. I don't buy it, so add me as a friend. And if you want some help and you would really like some support from us in the Academy, jump in. We have a process. You can do a break-in call to connect in with us. We do small courses. We have lots of things that we share. So we'd love the opportunity to give you a chance to change your life and turn it into a free one. You are one transformation away from change. Come and catch up.